Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. Today we are doing a watercolor landscape of a photo that I took when I was up at the Grand Tetons just last week. And this is what it's gonna look like. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is do a light sketch of my landscape. And I'm just using a 2H because it is so light, then I don't usually have to go back and erase my pencil lines. Because if you use a darker pencil, I would just make sure you go back and erase so that you're not seeing those pencil lines coming through your watercolor, because watercolor is transparent. And so I'm just kind of putting in the tops of my tree lines, trying to make them very varied, with some higher, some lower next to each other, and then trying to make it so that it's not uniform, so like they're not just all going down, so that you have some go down and then up and then down, making it very just different in there. So I have this huge piece of land that is sticking out on the photo, and then it you have a little bit of like some rocks right here, and even a pretty big sized rock right here. So I'm just kind of lightly sketching some of those in. And then all of this is gonna be water, and then back here I'm putting in this line where we have the edge of our lake, and we kind of have like a mountain just in the distance back here. And so again, just a few little lines that I'm putting in to help me when I start painting. This too, if you notice in the photo, it was super rainy, and you can see on the photo too, it actually is raining in the photo. You can see the droplets on the water. This was like clouds coming down, and so it's very, very white. I'm not gonna have it that white. I'm gonna put more color into that, just because with watercolor, it's hard to, you don't really have a white to work with. So I'm gonna make it more of like a gray. And that's the part I'm gonna start out with. I'm going to wet my brush, and no paint is on it right now. I'm just coming and I am laying in this water across this top half, because I wanna just put in a wash right there. So now I'm gonna come over and grab some of my blues. Use whatever blues you've got. I try not to be really specific with the colors, because your palettes and your colors might be different than mine, and that's okay. Work with what you've got. So I'm doing blue, and then to tone that down, to get it more of a gray, I'm gonna come in and grab some of my red, and I kind of have like a red-orange, because orange is blue's complementary color, and so notice how that's really grayed out, that blue. And so I need to bring a little bit blue back into that so that it's not just gray. But it does have a nice rainy feel to it, this nice gray blue. Okay, now that I've got that, I can come in and lightly put that in that top. And then again, I'm gonna grab just a little more blue to it. Yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna move my water. It seems like it keeps getting in my way. I'm gonna come in with my paper towel and just dab it in a few spots to kind of get just a cloud effect. And so I'm just lifting with my paper towel. One of the cool things with watercolor is that lifting effect that you can't really do with other paint as much. Watercolor is one of the only ones you can really just lift that color right off after you place it on, and it's fun to do with clouds. Okay, gonna let that dry for a second before I come in and do my trees, because right now it's wet, and if I start doing these trees, all that's gonna bleed together. So I'm gonna give it a second and then we'll go and start on the trees. Okay, that's still slightly wet. It's almost dry. While it's just finishing up, I'm gonna come in and get these rocks down here. And so what I'm gonna do is, I have a little bit of a yellow, it's Naples yellow. I'm gonna grab some of that. And that didn't come in my palette, so that's why I have some of these up here as well. Okay, so I'm gonna grab Naples yellow, a little bit of a cad orange, some red. Now the sky color I made, I'm gonna come over and grab some of that. So now starting to get kind of more of a brownish color. I'm gonna grab a little more blue. I'm trying to get a nice rock color. And these rocks have some gray on them, but they also have these spots of like a really light yellow and pinkish color. So I'm gonna do some of these darker spots. And I'm just lightly touching this color in down here. Rinse off my brush. While that's still wet, I'm gonna grab a little bit of red. Yellow. And just lightly tap that into. Rinse off my brush. I'm gonna come and grab my flat brush and mix up a green. One of the biggest things or tips I can give is whatever palette you do have, to never really use the color just straight out of the palette. Always try and mix a few colors together. It will give your colors more depth to them. And so usually with greens, I'll add some blue to them. And then I'll usually also add a little bit of red just to tone it down slightly so it's not such a bright green. And then too, you can add some yellows to brighten them up. You can do a lot with greens. You can add a lot of different colors to them. You can even add a little bit of purple in there. They're just it's a fun color you can really kind of go crazy with. So I'm gonna start putting in my trees over here. And I'm kind of going off of the photo and looking at where do I have my darker greens, and there's some dark really right in here. And then there's some really darks right in here too. This stays pretty dark. Okay, I'm coming in with a lighter green while this is still wet, so that it kind of blends together. mixing up a green again, darker one. We've been doing green this whole time, but I'm going back to the dark green. Now that I've kind of laid in, I would say this is more like my medium green and my light green. So now I'm gonna try and get a pretty, almost black green. And to do that, I'm just using a lot of red and then blue and green. And then having a lot of paint and less water so that I can get a nice deep dark black. And I'm coming in here with that. So that's gonna add some nice contrast in here. Take that same green that I have right now and pull that down into the water. Also getting a little bit of that lighter green, adding more yellow for that highlighted parts to have in the water as well. So I'm pulling some strokes out to the side to help it look like water, because that water has this ripple effect that goes horizontal from left to right. And so if you kind of just take your brush and go slightly to the sides, it helps kind of break up the shape so that it looks like it's water. Then I'm also gonna rinse out my brush completely and then pick up a few of these spots. So it looks like little highlights in the water. So I'm just wiping my brush off as I'm grabbing. Okay, that looks pretty good. What I'm gonna do is, I still have this little piece of this mountain that's way in the distance. And so I'm gonna grab my round brush and I'm going to, in order to get this to look like it's in the distance, if you were using acrylic, you would use a little bit of white maybe, or even like a light gray to help dull the color to make it look like it's further back. But with watercolor, in order to make it look less intense and like it's further away and less color, you use less paint and more water on the brush. So have more water on your brush. And I'm gonna just grab this green we were already using and just find a new spot on my palette to kind of pull it over. And notice already, you can tell it's lighter just because there's more water with it. And so I'm just gonna grab a little bit of blue. Okay, so I've got that color. And I am just lightly putting this in back here. I'm going to soften the top of that. Okay, now that has a really nice light color back there, where you can just make out that it's the top of, or that there's some mountains back there. Okay. I'm even gonna come with my flat brush and even just take out a little bit of some spots in here. Kind of gives it some cool highlighted effects. We can even come in with some other color in there in a second. Okay, we're gonna work on the water. So I'm gonna mix up a blue, kind of running out of room on my palette. So I'm gonna use my paper towel real fast and just clear out a spot. Okay, and again, it was a rainy day, so even the watercolor is more of a gray blue. So I'm just gonna add just a little bit of orange. Okay, that looks like a good blue. Come lightly put that in. Okay, I'm gonna add a little more blue to it and then come back. And I'm just lightly going over the top of this. And I'm trying to do it kind of in chunks too, where I'm lifting the brush and not going over every spot. I'm gonna do that one more time. And I'm just using left and right motion with this, because again, the way the water is, it moves. Well, it looks like it's just, you know, a horizontal back and forth motion. And then some of those pieces are pulled down. I'm gonna rinse my brush off, and then just come over and lightly blend this now. So if you got it a little too dark anywhere, or if it wasn't quite looking blended, just having water on your brush, come over and blend that nicely. Okay, I'm gonna come back with my flat brush, and I'm gonna grab actually a little bit of orange with a little bit of red. And I just kept having this feeling like I wanted to put a little bit of some pops of color back into over here. And so I'm just using my flat brush and just coming and tapping in a few spots. I feel like that has some nice, a little nice pop of color to it. Again, I'm gonna just even put a little down into the water. Use my finger to kind of just lightly blend that. Rinse that out. And then a few of these I'm gonna soften with no color on my brush. Okay, that looks pretty good. Last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back with a little bit of a black almost, and just again pop in some really nice dark, dark greens. Grabbing blue, red, and green. I'm looking at my photo, there's some really nice dark greens right in here. And then again, pull that down into your water a little. And then these darks kind of travel up this tree branch. I'm gonna just take my round brush and kind of move that to the side a little bit, soften it. Even soften this in here a little bit. It's a little too harsh. That looks pretty good. Add a little dark in there. Having really dark darks will just always help everything pop at the end, so I always try and go back and add those darks, because it makes a huge difference. It makes your lights look better. It makes just everything really pop so much more.
Thanks for following along in today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you thought was maybe the hardest part or the easiest part for you, or maybe what you would like to see next. And I'll see you next time.